I'm sure you've heard the expression, well, that person is just a natural born leader. And I'd have to argue with that fact. Now, I would grant you that there are people who are born with abilities to communicate better than others sometimes. And communication is a huge part of leadership. However, leadership is influence, and influence is earned. In other words, that's a process. And a person doesn't become a person who has the ability to command people and have them ready to follow you in the beginning. And we've talked about King David and how that here he was, just a little shepherd boy. He goes down to the valley of Eli, and he sees what's going on down there, and he sees that giant coming out there, and all of his cursing and swearing and saying things to defile the army of Israel, and the army of Israel taking off and running. And he said, this is just not right. And so he makes that decision that he's going to go fight the giant. They take him to Saul, and Saul says, well, you're too young. He said, you're too young to go fight this giant. And David declared to him, he says, look, I have had the responsibility to tend to my father's sheep. And there was accountability. If I came back to my father and said, look, I lost 2 or 3 sheep today, I'd have been in a lot of trouble. So he said, there came a day when a lion came out after my sheep. He says, I grabbed that lion by the beard and I killed it. And then he said there was another day when there was a bear that came after the sheep, and I killed the bear. And he said to Saul, he says, the same God that helped me kill the lion and the bear is the same God that's going to help me to kill that giant. And so he stood in confidence in what God can do. And he made that declaration. He says, I'm just not going to just do this on my own. God's going to help me. So I just gave you a very important part of learning about leadership. And that has to do with, first of all, a right relationship with God, that you can pray and you can call into God and you can touch God, and God will hear your prayers from heaven because, well, you've been doing this for a while. And when you pray, then you sense the presence of God that tells you, look, you're on the right track here. And you have that sensitivity to the moving of the Holy Spirit in your life. It brings confidence. And the wonderful thing about it is that there will be a presence that will come from you that other people will take note of. And it builds confidence. And people will follow because the influence that you have comes from God. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.